Hey Derek, how you doing?
Good, thank you, Mark. How are you?
Good. Welcome back. I am excited to hear about week four. So yeah, give us kind of you've been there a month now.
Been here a month,
Uh,
yeah.
wow, that seems to have actually flown by really quick. I mean, from my point of view, for you, how is it? Has it gone by quick? Does it seem like a month?
Yeah, it's gone quick. It's probably a bit like everybody in isolation at the moment. The days just seem to meld into one day, and you don't really know which day of the week it is. So the distinguishing factor is the first 2 weeks were just all around IV and chelation of the heavy metals, and it wasn't until the third week that I was here that I started to get into the AARSOTA treatment, which is the intensive stuff that activates your immune system and starts to bring on the reactions to the body, which are the immune response. And so the first week I did the AARSOTA, which is 2 weeks ago, my body had a lot of aches and achy joints, achy muscles, and lethargy. I didn't want to do very much, some headaches, lightheaded and nauseous. And then felt pretty good after about a day and a half after that first week since AARSOTA. I felt really good. This last week has been a step up in intensity, more oxygen therapy and more AARSOTA treatments, which this week was big. But this week that's just been has been physically and emotionally challenging, but oh so good in terms of revealing things in my body that I wasn't aware of, in terms of revealing emotional thoughts in my body that I wasn't fully aware of. That all help with aiding the release mechanism to get the toxins out of my body, whether they be emotional or physical. And that enables the healing of the body to occur at a faster rate. So it's been an intense week, a very intense week.
So physically, can you maybe describe or go into a bit more detail about how the treatments have been sort of physically affecting you?
Sure. It's interesting. I'll probably have to touch on the emotional aspect as well because it's all linked. But I'll probably just start off at the start of the week. So on the Monday, I went in, which is just a normal routine day. They just start giving you IVs. You do your hyperbaric therapy, and that's okay. You're feeling pretty good because the chelation and just the IV treatment going through your body is filling you up on minerals and vitamin C and that sort of stuff, and preparing your immune system for a bit more of a journey going ahead. The Tuesday, one of the therapies that's really quite good is EVOX, which is an emotional release program. It's using computer software and biological resonance, I think, with machines to measure your physiological response to certain things, stresses in your life. That activated some stuff in me in terms of, so that had activated the revelation, an awareness inside of me of an emotion that I've carried most of my life, more so in the last 10 to 15 years as a result of the head injuries years ago, and then just the situation here and some life events that have happened. And it's just the anger that I've been carrying inside of me. I'll touch on that a bit later, but the anger is a recognition of anger and rage. I'm going to use the word rage, not that many people in my life would have seen me rage, but over the last 6 months especially, I've had some pretty strong reactions to people where I'll yell at people, and it's only the people I love the most. It's funny that I rage response to. But that activated an emotional release inside of me that then led into the following day, being the Wednesday, with the AARSOTA treatment, that although I had a delayed response of 3-4 hours after the injection, it brought on a huge physiological response. Now, what they're seeking with that is the ability of your body to have a fever. And so I've got my fever. So I got to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which is high for me. I think my body is naturally a bit lower in its normal body temperature. But anyway, I got really high with that. I had a lot of headaches, very strong headaches right through the middle, through there, just aching. It felt like somebody got a sponge and was just sucking all this toxins and crap out of my head. Nauseousness, I felt like I wanted to vomit, and there was a couple of times through the day and the night that I sat on the side of my bed and hold on to it. And then the aches in my body, when I start to feel the symptoms from the AARSOTA treatment, I get achy ankles and legs and knee joints, and that's when I know it's starting to kick in. And that's common with illnesses in the past. When I've had the flu or colds and stuff, I start with the achiness first, and my body goes through a progression. So this is nothing unusual, and certainly I don't want to set a fear to anybody that this is not normal or it's not natural. It's the body doing what it naturally does. So anyway, achy joints, sleep. I wasn't getting any sleep. I was just tossing and turning, I was too hot, then I was too cold, and then I have a long sustained fever, and you just feel lousy. You don't really want to eat. You don't want to go and do anything. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to be around anybody really. And exercise, I stopped doing exercise because I just go, oh, I just can't do it. I just want to lie on my bed and just get through this. And that when I put words to something, it makes it sound more dramatic than it actually is. I just felt lousy. I wanted to lie down. I didn't want to do anything, but I knew my body was reacting. So that was the Wednesday, and it took me all day Wednesday and through the night to get through that. I woke up in the morning, took my temperature because I did get a couple of hours sleep, and I was back to my normal body temperature, which in Celsius is 36.2 degrees Celsius. I haven't got the conversion for, it's about 97 degrees Fahrenheit. So that was good. I still had nauseousness, but not as much. I still had some achy muscles and stuff, but that was okay. Went back to the clinic, and we go through a consult process where they look at the responses to the AARSOTA during the day. And you have a consult with a doctor and a nurse there, and you talk through what's happened, and they assess what's going on. They do have a methodology called the head map, where you go through and you monitor where you're at compared to last week, and it shows you any big changes, and they talk to you about any changes that have happened there. And so really quite thorough. They also assess your supplementation program to see if you are needing to change certain things. And so my supplementation program, 99% there. They just changed one or two items just to help mostly of my body just to absorb nutrients better and have better probiotic and prebiotic digestive processes in my body. That's where the supplementation has changed. So that was good. And then they test you out. They do air tests, and they test your bodies, and they do simple bodily tests to test whether you've got any aches and pains in your body, and then you report back on your bowel movements and anything else you're noticing. So at about, I was still feeling pretty average. The response was about 22 hours long for the intensity of it, but I was still carrying that through till probably Thursday evening. So 2 days of just feeling pretty average. But then what was interesting was on the Thursday, I did another emotional release, and where that was also around rage and anger. And so looking at, and this is nothing new, but in terms of understanding that your organs all carry emotions. Now, traditional Chinese medicine has known for thousands of years that your organs display various emotions in your own body. So there's a thought that if you have a certain type of cancer, where it is located in your body and how it's presenting is often the result of an emotional response that you carried forward in your life. And the thing that's been noticeable with me is just this anger, this hidden anger that's been inside of me, the suppression of my emotions, suppression of flow. And so the emotional release session, the EVOX on the Thursday, brought that anger up again. And so as I'm sitting there going through the process, you visualize, you think about the ailment in my body. And what I see was just this clump of grey mass in my mind. I'm visualizing this, but it's representing my colon. And what it was every time a negative thought came through my mind, it would just come through the colon system and just land on that mass and sit there. The bigger chunks would come through when I was using a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism. They'd come in and just embed and sit there and just clog onto this, which eventually over time just grows and grows, so that emotions over time would have been able to flow through the colon no problem, but as that mass gets bigger, more and more gets backed up on it. So that was a visualization of it. I talked, so when I became aware of that, I've got some people that are doing work for me in New Zealand at the moment. Well, I'm working with, and one's a kinesiologist, Janine DeVere Hunt, and phenomenal what she's done for me before I got here. But even just having a conversation with her yesterday about the treatments that are going on, the anger she's saying that is coming through in the colon is around hidden depression. And so I got through with the head injuries. I had a pretty depressive state. I don't know if you would have noticed that, but when I was in Calgary with you and some of my other friends, there was times where I just was pretty low. But my way of wanting to be was to put up a persona that I'm all okay, I'm all good, I've got it all figured out. But in reality, inside, I'm hurting. Life isn't going well. I don't know how to get out of it, and I'm not sure where life is actually going. So she was saying around that, and what is a way forward. So releasing the emotions around that depression, that anger is really important. So that's the physiological. Today I'm feeling tired. It's just your body goes up and down through the week, and you
Sure.
feel you
Yeah.
have moments of ecstasy, moments of despair. But today I'm just tired, but I'm feeling good. I know when I go through that 2 days on Wednesday, Thursday of not feeling so good, it's intended, it's planned. I know that when I come out the other side, I feel a lot better. So that's been really good. So that's the physiological. There's some other cool things that have come out of that, which I can go into a bit later. But the area I'd like to go into is just the emotional side of that, of how that came about. Is that something?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great.
So the emotional stuff. So on Tuesday when I was doing the EVOX treatment, it's around. So it was around past relationships that I had, and it was around my own relationship with myself. And I carried a lot of rage, and rage. And I hope if people are listening, like, I'm not a rageful person, but all of us have the ability inside of us to have rage. I'm sharing this because we often deny what's inside of us because we're trying to put a persona on around us of what we should be or how people should perceive us. But inside, I carried a lot of anger towards relationships I've had in my life because I felt like a lot of things that happened was their fault. The realization is it's not their fault. In reality, the other person's trying to go through the life the best way they can and deal with emotional issues the best way they can. I was trying to do the same thing. But because I've carrying these issues inside of me of suppression of emotions, depression and anger, when somebody triggers me, the first thing I do is lash out at people. So I've lashed out at my family, people close to me, my last relationship, I lashed out at them, not verbally, but certainly, possibly verbally, but certainly in a written format. And it was like a dump of my emotions to make me feel better. I tried to hurt them. That's not healthy. Whether that person did anything right or wrong, my response to that is not healthy. It's not healthy emotionally, but it's physically not healthy for me because that creates more anger and tension inside of my body that affects the ability of my cells to operate appropriately.
Yeah.
That's the work of epigenetics and Dr. Bruce Lipton, which we've discussed and touched on in other interviews. So when I came to healing me, I realized that one of the release statements I had to have was just stop trying to control everything, but also realize that I have the right to be in this world. I know what I know, and I have the right to express freely what is inside of me and be as authentic and as truthful as I can to myself. By being that, then I can be more effective and a better citizen, a better human being, because I'm being more authentic. I don't have the same grudges that I blame on other people when in reality they're mine. I won't respond in the same angry way to when people do something in front of me because it's not about them, it's about me. So that was huge. When I came to the Thursday, it was looking at the journey of the illness that I've been going through. And it was so much of it was just about how I've lived my life and not expressed what I needed to express in my life. So a simple example, if I'm upset with somebody or somebody's done something that hurts me, instead of saying, look, that actually hurt me, this is how I perceive that. Is that what you're trying to do? I won't. I'll suck that in and I'll go, well, that person's just hurting me and they're trying to be mean to me. and therefore I then suppress that emotion. I hold on to my crap, to put it simply. Where do I put that? Down on my colon. So this is showing that emotions are important. So if I fully believe in myself, if I fully trust who I am and I'm authentic with my own understanding of what I'm about, then somebody does something, I realize it's more about them than it is about me. I don't have to take that on. So that was huge, because I can start to see a lot of my holding on to my anger has caused this chronic situation because I couldn't express. The thing with that is it takes courage to express. It doesn't take courage if you're fighting for your life and you want to live. It just takes a desire to be healthy. How do I be healthy? I have to express what the emotions that are sitting inside me, not blaming other people, realizing they're my own emotions. Other people's actions may trigger my emotions, but it's my emotion, not theirs. So that was, to me, that's a huge one, a huge one. What's cool, well, I find really exciting. I have another friend who I only just met about a month before I came over to the States, and her name's Tony Smith. She does ionic foot baths. An ionic foot bath is simply you put your feet into warm water with an ionizing machine, which puts a charge into the water, a low amp charge, which is with some sort of salt solution, which is just water with a bit of salt, Himalayan type salt. And the ionic charge then brings the toxins out of your body. And the color of those toxins can indicate what your body is releasing. So in the past that I've done, a lot of my releasing has been around my gallbladder and my large intestine. Cool. This week, coupled with the emotional release, my ionic foot bath that I did here in the US had a real deep, dark brown, which is showing a release of the liver. Now, the liver is where you store a lot of your emotions because it's the detoxifier for your body and the releaser. So a lot of the emotions that I've had in my body have been stored there. That dark brown showed a real strong release from that. This is where it gets a bit crazy and cool in my mind. So my friend Tony Smith in New Zealand, she did her own foot bath on the Wednesday, the North Carolina Wednesday, the same day of my AARSOTA treatment, and did a foot bath, a distance healing concept, which will be new to a lot of people, but it's not a new practice. It's something that the quantum field recognizes, and a lot of traditional Chinese and Japanese practices realize there's the ability to do distance healing. It's like sending a prayer to somebody on the other side of the world. I pray for their recovery from the flu. Same thing, but it's becoming more and more recognized with science. She did a foot bath on my Wednesday here in North Carolina, and the bath was full of just dark brown substances from her body. Now, what she did to do a control was she did this bath for me to show the amount of stuff that came out as a result of that. She did a foot bath the next day to show her normal state, and her foot bath, because she does this full time, is clear as there's nothing in there. But when she's doing a distance healing for me, full of this release of compounds and particles. So anyway, a bit outside a lot of people's understanding of science, but cool. So anyway, she said the same thing. Your liver's releasing a huge amount because it's time to release. It's like your body said it's time to release. Yeah, I'm still talking a lot. Sorry, Mark, but
No, you're good.
I've got one other thing to say, which is really good. During my consult, they measure your natural killer cells in your body, which is the ability of your body to fight off cancer cells. Now, not to put fear into anybody, but our body always has cancer cells in it, because our body, a cancer cell is nothing more than your body saying there's a toxin here, I'm going to get rid of it and let go of it. When it forms into something dangerous is because your body's got so much overwhelm of toxicity, it's got to do something with it. So it creates a tumor or a mass or into your blood. So everybody's body has these natural killer cells that go through and just get rid of these cancerous cells in the body. Mine was really low, like in a range, it's meant to be in a range of about, this is what I've been informed, 12 to 25. Mine was at 2, so that's almost non-existence. So the
Mm.
way they talk about it is in your body, you have an armory, which is like a store of these cancerous cells that can go out and fight, not, natural killer cells that can go out and fight cancer. So you've got an armory that you can go and pull on reserves to bring out more troops. You then have a battalion, which is all the soldiers that go out, and then you have your individual soldier. If your battalion's weak, then you ain't going to have a very good force. And if your soldiers are even weaker, then you're not going to have a good force at all. My soldiers were incredibly weak. In the space of 1 week, my natural killer cells have gone from 2 to 8. Now, what's interesting is I'm doing the standard therapies, but what is important on top of that is I meditated on that. I meditated on those cells in my body, natural killer cells, growing in strength. So I just visualized the armory getting stronger, where you go and get these stores from. I envisaged the battalion of these cells getting bigger and stronger, more of them. And I envisaged the individual cell getting healthier and strong and having loads of them to go out and fight these cancerous cells and natural killers, getting out there and doing their job, and visualize that. And then this result happened. I'm pretty
Wow.
happy. I'm pretty happy with that. That's a physical measure of the change in my body from doing the treatments here as well as the meditation.
So you've mentioned the word visualizations a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you could, go into more detail about, what that means for healing specifically. When you refer to visualizations, kind of walk people through what that looks like.
Sure. So I'm going to go from probably more of a religious background in this regards for a start. Simplistically speaking, when we pray, and most people know what praying is, whether you believe in God or not, most people know what a prayer is. It's the intent to say, I want to assist in a situation. So we send a thought or a feeling or a desire to a higher power and say, I pray for peace in whichever part of the world's in war at the moment. I send a prayer to my neighbor who's going through a chronic illness to get healing and recover. It's as simple as that. Now, I've done energy healing, Reiki and Qigong, which are both Eastern philosophies, Qigong from China, been around for thousands of years, where you set intents and use energy, the quantum field, if we want to use that term in this Western world. So visualization is an intent, really. It's a prayer, but it's an intent of how do I want things to be. So you want to win the lottery. A lot of people pray for the lottery, but are we really praying the right way? So, but if you wanted to win $100, you say, I pray or I visualize $100 coming towards me. That's what you do. So for my body, I just visualize the human cell, a cell in the body, and I just visualize that getting stronger and more healthy. So how do I see it healthy? It vibrates at a higher frequency. It brings the necessary peptides, is it? The necessary sustenance into that cell, and then the process working inside healthily and excreting what it no longer needs. I visualize that. The armory, on the battalion I was talking about, I just visualize seeing more and more and more of them getting stronger and stronger. And then the armory is knowing I've got plenty in reserve, so when those ones do their job and fall over, I've got plenty more to come down. That's as simple as the visualization I did. It only took a couple of minutes every day for about 3 days. I did that, and that's all I did. The visualization around that, you can apply it to anything really. And you know about this stuff. I mean, to me, the visualization of if you want a happy relationship, what does that look like? Well, there's feelings of love between each other. There's good communication. I see spending time together, walking down a road, holding hands. I see picnics. I see a healthy family. I see 2 young kids running through healthy. That sort of thing. Do I see myself as financially abundant? Yes, I do. So I visualize having the ability to go on trips overseas. I visualize the ability of my body to heal, and that's where I've been for the last year and a bit. It's just visualizing my body fully healed. And this is not new. Dr. Joe Dispenza, to me, explains it brilliantly and gives you a whole lot of practical exercises to go through it. But the power in setting that intent enables your body to act like it's already happened. And so that's the control of your emotional state. So if I want a loving relationship, for example, I just visualize that loving relationship's already there. I feel it in my body. How do I feel it in my body? It feels cool, man. Who doesn't like being in love with somebody that you can share your communication with? What does it feel in my body? Everything's lighter. I feel happier. I smile more. Everything's more exciting. I'm more interested in people, all that sort of stuff. I visualize that. Even though I haven't got it physically around me, I visualize that in my body, and I express that as an emotion in my body. That's it. Sounds simple, but that's the reality of it. This is how simple it is to get to a healthy state. The journey is getting through all the baggage that we've held on to that stops us from getting to that state. I don't know. Does that answer?
Yeah, and it's also a segue into sort of maybe the next question. When you talk about baggage and confronting baggage, it's been pretty sure it's been almost close to exactly 6 years since you left Calgary. So when you talk about baggage, I'm curious, like at what point did you start to confront baggage? Because the things that you're talking about right now, I don't imagine that those were things that you were maybe even thinking about like 10 or 15 years ago. So, can you touch on a little bit on like how you've gotten to the mindset or your worldview that you have right now? What led you to that, to even start to approach confronting your baggage, or
Sure.
a willingness to even admit that you have baggage, which I think a lot of people are hesitant to even want to confront. And certainly quarantine is bringing out in people all of the things that on a normal day, they could easily find ways to distract themselves from being introspective at all. But now so many people are in a situation where they kind of have to confront the fact that they do have baggage because they're with themselves. And many people either alone or with just family. And yeah, they're being forced into situation of confronting baggage. So yeah, be curious to hear you comment a little bit about that.
So that's a good question. I could go for hours on this one, mate, but I won't. I'll simplify if I can. When I was in Canada with you guys, it was a journey of exploration. I'd always been a chartered accountant. I'd been successful in that business field. I was good at my job, and I had offers for higher jobs all the time because I was good at it. I never felt happy in it. There was sometimes I did with the work I was doing, but most of the time I was beating myself up emotionally, that I'm not good enough. I hopefully they don't find out I can't do my job, all that sort of stuff. Negative self-talk that wasn't real, but it was in my head. So when I met you guys in Canada, a group of people, I was exploring what it meant to be me, to be Durrick. So I went out and explored meditation. I went out and explored energy healing, and a whole lot of other things, sweat lodges and things. And that put me on a path of, wow, finally, the world started to make sense to me, because it didn't before then, because I was in a foreign environment to who I was. I wasn't being authentic to myself, but I didn't know that. I was meant, in my own head, I was meant to be one of the successful ones. I went through university, got a degree, first degree honours. I went out and got qualified as a chartered accountant. I went up through one of the world's biggest financial services firms. I was success on a modern definition, if I can say that, in this world. And yet I really wasn't happy. But I thought that's what you did to be successful, because if you're successful, you'll find happiness. When I got injured in Canada again, my definition of success fell over. I couldn't use that as a reference for me being better than anybody else. And egotistically speaking, I did have that perception that I know a lot more than other people because I've been through the education system. Looking back now, I didn't know anymore. I had a set of book knowledge that didn't really have any life experience or knowledge from living through tough times, simplistically speaking. So anyway, when I came home to New Zealand, I spent a lot of time, and that was in 2014. When I came home to New Zealand, I got injured again, and life was tough, and I just didn't know what to do. But my approach was just to plow on through, just keep doing what you're doing, because that's what you do. I didn't have an awareness of what else was out there and how to get healthy. I was starting to make progress. I had a job, I had a relationship, I had money coming in the door that was not great, but it was enough to get me started back into being a normal member of society. What's interesting is as soon as when I started to get back into that field more and more, that's when I got my diagnosis.
Mm.
I was starting to ignore who I was again, and I started to try and be what is perceived as success in this world, and that is to have a job, have the wealth, have the what's perceived to be useful. When I got diagnosed, another unfortunate accident happened. So this is in October, late October, I got the colonoscopy done where they found it, and then in November they diagnosed me. My father had a stroke, a severe stroke, on the first week of December that year, and that's 2018. Well, my life just spun out of control. Not that it spun out of control. I spent more time in the hospital than I wanted to. I'm trying to deal with my emotional stuff, didn't know what was going on. My dad's going through a real tough time, and it was a close call, very close call. He's still alive now, but it was a close call, and very worrying. Anyway, I went through Christmas not sure. I thought I started to feel things in my relationship. Whether I had a relationship or not, I'm not sure, but that connection with that person started to be challenged as well. I got to January of 2019 and went, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't keep working. I can't keep a relationship. I can't keep looking after my father. I can't keep doing a whole lot of things. My life is not making sense. I didn't know how to get out of my situation. What I did know,
Mm.
I didn't know how to live a healthy life because I've proved it. I proved that I had no idea, and I'm being pretty blunt with myself at this point. You can avoid the main issue and say, well, I do this right, I do that right. But in reality, the situation I was in, nothing's going right for me. My health is not good. My ability to have relationships is not good. My ability to hold a job is not good. There's no money coming in the door. Those are pretty important things in your life. There's nothing else to work from. That recognition was huge. To realize your life is not where you want it to be was huge. You can take it as, well, I'm no good at anything and I deserve all this because I'm a bad person. I did a bit of that. I did a bit of that self-reflection, and that's where I got to. But I knew that's not the case. There's something else I'm missing. I started to do the landmark program based on a recommendation from an ex-girlfriend that said you should do this, and I did it, and it felt right at the time. But they take you through that process of assessing where you are in your life and whether this is where you want to be. And so I'd done it. I had that recognition by myself, and then I had that recognition in that program. And so that program, I just went, I got no idea. I need to let go of what I think I know how to heal and be healthy and move to a new state of being healthy. So I did that program right through from the start, the first module, right through to the first one, the last one. And that was huge because it was very confronting, because I got to see how I perceive myself and how the image I try to put out to the world to be perceived as confident. And so how did I act? I tried to act in front of people that I was confident and I had it all together. That's what was needed in my career, and it was what I needed to protect myself, because inside the reality was I was scared people wouldn't like me. I was scared people would think I'm dumb. I'm scared people would think I'm stupid. I'm scared that I was never going to be good enough to meet somebody and have a constructive relationship with. That's all the stuff you had to confront. So when I got through that, I started to see that and started to see that I don't actually know what I'm doing here. Now, what did I do? When I got diagnosed, obviously you start down the path of nutrition. I'd already had a head start with that from a relationship I had in the past, where they gave me a framework to start eating healthy, and I started to lose weight and feel better. Keep that up. In terms of who I perceive myself to be, I recognize the act that I put on in this world and recognize that's not who I am. I'll always be, to some extent, that person that's going to carry out those behaviors, but I don't have to let that ride and rule over my life. So the next step after doing that program was I was fundamentally tired, but all that time I've been working with alternative practitioners, and it wasn't until I met, and so this is the cool part of it. Every time I made a step forward in recognizing and having an understanding in my life, another practitioner would come along that could give me the next step. And so there's no one silver bullet that solves it all. It's a jigsaw puzzle, because you got to find out who you are, how you work, and what works for you. Because one thing I've learned, there's no one silver bullet for the entire population, because we're all different. We all have our own emotional experiences from our past, our own emotional triggers that affect us in the way that we live. Most of us, if I can be so bold, live in a state of fear. I'm not going to have enough money. I'm not going to have a job. I can't pay the mortgage. My partner's too hard to deal with. All that sort of stuff. That's just fear-based. Now, there's some real cool people that I have met on this journey who just don't live in that space. And I look at them and go, wow, because life's just so exciting and enjoyable for them. So when I went, when I had the contact with Dr. Patel on social media and said, I'm looking at your clinic, he asked me a direct question. I'm not going to relay what that question was, but where I got to was, did I actually have a death wish? Did I? And that specific question got asked to me by a couple of practitioners, which was very confronting. But I appreciate that honesty, because did I? And I remember sitting on a tree stump one day after I got injured in New Zealand, going, I can't keep doing this. Life's too hard. I can't do this. What am I asking for? It might not be directly asking for a death wish, but I'm saying it's too hard, I give up. Recognizing I did that. So when I got to deciding to come over to America, a kinesiologist I met, Janine, who I've already mentioned, she did a whole lot of emotional work on me by body testing, kinesiology, using the body to indicate where that's coming from. We started to get into toxic shame, all the things we don't want to admit about ourselves, we started to get into. And the beliefs that I had around myself, and trying to reprogram that to put in a new perspective that's more healthy and constructive to a healthy life. That was huge. I couldn't come to America until I'd gone through that process with her, because I knew my emotional state would affect my ability to heal. So coming over here and doing the EVOX, which is getting, I told you it was a long story. When coming over here and doing the emotional release, it's nothing new for me. It's just a new way of doing it using technology that's backed by science.
Yeah.
Confronting the emotional issues is probably the hugest thing in my recovery, because when I let go of that emotional turmoil, I have the ability for my body to be in that natural state of going, everything's okay. I don't have to be in a state of fear. I lived my entire life before I came to Canada. So that was in 2009, I came to Canada in fear that I wouldn't have enough money. I wasn't going to be successful enough. Nobody loved me, all that sort of stuff. But in reality, all it was, I didn't love myself enough to believe in myself to give me the life that I deserve, to put it simply. So this EVOX stuff has been really helpful as the next step. The rage and the anger, I've known about that inside of me when I first got diagnosed, because I went and did research. What's the emotions of your large colon? I've known that, but I haven't been able to get to the bottom of it until this last week. And the bottom of it was, I'm angry at myself because of all the times I held myself back in my life instead of putting myself forward. You know, when there's that girl you want to ask out, go and ask her. When I'm at work and I should say something in a meeting and I don't because I'm scared I'm going to look like an idiot, or I'm going to go against what everybody else is saying. Or when somebody says something to me and I disagree with it, being able to put my viewpoint forward without having to judge myself and say I shouldn't say that. All that suppression, that anger and rage inside of me got exhibited by yelling at my sister, my father, and my mother. That's where it came through, obviously. I'm not proud of those things, but I also am proud of myself for acknowledging what's inside of me and letting it out. Now I can change it because I'm not hiding from it. And that's how important emotional release is.
So moving forward then, as you said, now that you know it, you can change it. How will you change it? What are some steps that you can put into practice that assure you that you're not suppressing things?
Yep. There'll be times where I suppress it because you just will. As normal human beings, we have our natural behaviors. The key thing is, the first step that happens is with an awareness becomes the ability to go, I don't have to act like that anymore. And to me, there's a physiological shift that happens with that when you become aware of that. I've had a access bars, access consciousness technique given to me on the internet, which just says when there's an emotional action inside of you, what is it? And the phrasing they use is, who does this belong to? Now, when you ask that question, you feel the energy in your body. If it feels light and happy, it's not yours, it's somebody else's. When it feels heavy, it's mine. Now, I've had a couple of instances in the last day where I've just started doing this practice where the heaviness is mine. I go, I've got to work through that. In terms of, so that's one methodology. Another methodology is I can work with the kinesiologist to go through what are these emotions that keep coming up? What are these limiting beliefs that I have? And so that doesn't have to be on a daily basis, but it can be, you know, a regular visit with a kinesiologist, a decent kinesiologist, I will say, that helps you to confront those emotions and set a new program in place for the next 6 weeks. The other way is you can go and buy an EVOX machine if you want, but they're a lot of money. And another way is do emotional release. There is a mountain of emotional release techniques on the internet. You can go and learn, do courses on it. You might not have the scientific evidence to support that you've released something, but it's still a process that's effective. I've done a lot of esoteric approaches. I've done the scientific approaches now, and I've done something in between. So they all work. You just use the one that's right in front of you that feels the best. It's not one's better over the other. Everybody's different. And then the key thing is just the awareness on a daily basis. When I'm feeling an emotion, ask, is it mine or somebody else's? And then taking the appropriate action on that. That's the key thing. How does that come up and become more aware of that? And that's, we've already talked about this, the importance of meditation, quietening the mind every day to be able to hear yourself. Because in those moments of quietness, often you get inspiration. So when I quieten the mind every day, I do, because I'm in the hyperbaric chambers. I've got an hour to lay there just do this. And before I came over to Canada, I was spending an hour and a half every day meditating. I'm aware when I'm out of alignment with who I am. And who I am, I'm happy. We're all wired to be happy inside of ourselves. If we're not in alignment with who we are. So as soon as I realize I'm out of alignment, and it might take me a bit longer than most because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, as I realize that, take appropriate action. Some techniques that I've learned, there's loads out there.
It's interesting how these conversations always seem to produce a certain theme that's unique to each one, but yet is something that we have no idea about going in, because it always tends to come out at the same time around the sort of 45 minute mark. Suddenly you'll be talking about something that seems to sum up what the whole conversation was. And I think today, this whole idea of the importance of developing a willingness to emotionally confront tension that that each person stores in their body. I think you really kind of summed that up really great, as far as the importance of that, and to see how practically that has impacted your life. You know, it brings a lot of insight. So on that note, is there anything any sort of final words that you'd like to say to wrap this up before we check in with you again next week?
Sure. Just as you were talking, I was thinking about this whole journey that I've been on. You can easily get stuck in the emotion of, oh, it's cancer, it's death, all that sort of stuff. But I haven't been there for months, if not nearly a year. I have my moments, no doubt. Sometimes, and one of the emotional responses this last week was I woke up and I cried, because I'm going, this is hard work. It's not easy. But what I will say is I'm so excited by this journey because I get to uncover more of who I am. I get to uncover what's truly inside of me. What's inside of me? A loving person that wants to have fun and enjoy his life. I'm pretty sure that's in all of us. But it's so hidden by so much of the dogma that we carry around with us, our own beliefs around this world, the expectations that we have from our society, education, all different paths. Now, I'm not saying any of that's wrong, but to me, if you're not happy, find out why, and it'll be something inside of you. I thought the reason why I was sick was because of all the world around me. It's not.
Mm.
Yes, there's environmental pollutions. Yes, there's all that sort of stuff, and we try to minimize that. What's polluting my environment inside of me was my emotional state, the beliefs I had about myself that I don't deserve anything. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not the type of guy in the past that would have stood up and said, "This is my life," and this is all this is all the nitty-gritties that are going on inside of me. I wouldn't have done that because I hid it from everybody. I'm doing it now because I don't want anybody to live the way that I did. Scared of the world and not enjoying life. Life is something to be loved and valued, to be shared, to enjoy the people around you. I wasn't able to enjoy the people around me in my life because of the bullshit that I was carrying in my head. Nobody else's, mine. When I started this journey, the most rewarding thing is that I get to see people for who they are. I've got a better relationships with my cousins and my extended family, my immediate family. I have a better relationship and appreciation with people, random strangers that I meet in the street, because I love myself more than I ever have. If each person could do that, we wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't have governments having to pass laws that seem draconian. We wouldn't have to have a health system that's burdened because we are not following practices that are good for health in our society. The world changes and becomes better when we realize how much we have love inside of ourselves, not outside. That's why I'm doing this. Because it's not comfortable to stand up in front of a whole lot of people and say, I'm dealing with rage, because rage is frowned upon, but rage is inside of me. I'm not going to hide from that stuff anymore, because that stuff that's hidden is what's destroying our world.
Wow. I mean, thank you so much for sharing from your heart. Because as it's so evident that you're speaking from the heart, and I think the intention for both of us in starting to do these was that as people were exposed to the journey that you're on, that they might feel inspired to do the work on themselves that they need, and I think you just leveled up the message of this week through sharing that. So thank you so much for your willingness to share.
Thank you, Mark. I honestly appreciate the time you are doing to help this happen, because I couldn't do this by myself. And I've learned that I can't live a happy life without other people, which in the past I thought it was all about me. I'll do it myself, but you miss out on the richness of life. So I truly thank you for your time that you spent with us and helping me to do this. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, and it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be involved. So, all right, Durrick. Well, we'll catch you in a week.
Thank you, Mark. You will. Another exciting week of fun and adventure. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks,
Take
Mark.
care.
Bye-bye.